and I think we are live.
Oh, sweet. Let's hope for the best then.
Yeah, yeah, we are live.
Go for it. Introduce yourself.
Confirmed. What do you mean? This is my channel. I'm not gonna introduce myself here.
My bad.
Yeah,
What's up?
you do that. Oh, hi internet. It's been a while. You introduce yourself. I mean,
Hey guys. Bhargava here again. You might have seen me in some of the random episodes from Sunil's channel. I'm working on his Goblin. I've been working on his Goblin in the recent past, texturing and doing some shading work on that. So I just thought I'd show you guys what I have done so far and how I've done it and just basically give you an idea or a broad overall view of like how I have been doing things. So Sunil finished sculpting and modeling this quite some time back. I've been texturing it for quite some time, but this is the first time I'm showing you guys what I've done. And all my texturing work has been in Mari and a little bit in Nuke, maybe like separating out his displacement to get a three-channel displacement for mid, low, and high frequency details and stuff like that. But otherwise, or creating tileables maybe in Nuke, but otherwise, it's all been texturing has all been mainly in Mari. So this is what the goblin looks like right now. I have some skin detail on there for the color map, and I have some textures on the eyes, and I have basically textured first pass on everything on this, which includes the cloth and the bones and every other aspect of this character. So this is not what is going to be final, but basically one round of everything that looks decent. I'll just show you real quick what the render looks like in Katana. So this is what he looks like right now here in Katana. And as you can see, the color is not completely the same as what you would see in Mari. So that is something you want to keep in mind, that the environment that you use to render plays a big role in what the final render looks like. And again, this is still WIP, so um, just keep that in mind maybe. And this is a close-up of his face, so I had not added in the textures for the beads here, that's why they're still gray. Otherwise, this is what he's looking like right now. I have a first pass of like the spec and an opacity map for his cloth and all of that going on in this as well. Um, so all of that will need improving on, or improvement on, which I'll be getting to next. So let me just show you around what I have done in Mari first as far as texturing is concerned. So okay, so let me just move these to the side. Mm, Hey Sunil, just confirming all audio and video and everything is good, right?
no complaints yet, so should be fine. I think it's fine.
Okay. Da, da, da. Okay, so this major part of the node graph is where I have all my textures for the skin and skin and the cloth and the bones and everything going on. So over here, first off, I just have my inputs, which is all different types of inputs. So it can be something like the projection that I did for the eyeballs, or it can be the Z displacement that Sunil sculpted out, and they're all going through radio nodes so that they get input into the separate radio inputs wherever I want them for convenient use later. Um, so one thing you want to keep in mind is I'm using Mari with the extension pack. It's Mari 4.6 version 1 with whatever extension pack that came along with this. And I find the extension pack to be very important, especially if you're going to be working in Mari for slightly bigger assets. So I have a baked out ambient occlusion, curvature, and normal in position. So some of these Sunil baked them out from Substance Paint and he gave them to me. The others I just baked. I baked some through Mari itself through the Modo renders. Other than that, I have ISOs. So ISOs are basically isolation maps. So in this case, I have an isolation for all the cloth, isolation for all the bones, isolation for the stones, and so on and so forth. Like I have a few more. And I am just using all of those here. Now, what I've done is I've separated out every different surface according to their material properties and I've textured them individually. So the skin is separate, the cloth, the bone, the stones, the rope and thread, and the ice. So that's how I've separated it out. I'm just using something called as a multi-mixer, which you can use to merge many different channels into one input with separate mask maps or alpha maps. So that's where those ISOs are being used. And on top of all of that, I'm adding on top an ambient occlusion that I've graded out and a curvature that I have graded a little bit. So these are on different merge these. I merge these using overlay functions. I think this, yeah, both of them are an overlay. So depending on what sort of detail I would want, I'd either merge them using an overlay or a multiply or a screen or whatever works for that particular use. So up until here, up until the multi-mixer, each and every different individual aspect of the character, according to its material, gets its own separate treatment, and everything that I do in front of this is a generalized treatment for the entire character. This is just being fed out to a channel, so there's nothing fancy going on here. Now this has a radio node as well, which I don't think I'm using, but if I wanted to create a spec map from this thing's base color output, I would have used this to create a spec map. But I've made my spec map in a different way, which I'll get to in just a bit. So as for the color of the skin, I've kept things as procedural as possible so that I can go and change it at any point of time. Like right now, if I want to go and change the color of the skin, I can go ahead and do that because everything is super procedural right now. So over here, I just have a bunch of different colors that are just being merged in. I never use flat color nodes. I always use a cloud node just so it adds in a little bit of variation onto it, which makes a world of difference, especially when creating breakups is like the most important thing. So I'm just using two different clouds with four different colors, and I'm just merging all of those in together, and I'm making any type of hue saturation and scale changes I want to make it look like the type of skin color that I want to achieve towards the end, right? And the subsurfacey parts of the character towards wherever it has maybe slightly thinner skin, or according to whatever reference that I was looking at. Just a sec, let me show you the references so it'll make sense. Mm, mm, mm. Project ongoing, Goblin, references, and pure. So for anybody in this industry, PureRef is probably one of the most amazing free softwares that you can get for reference image collection. So you can just drag and drop your references, and you can keep scrolling through and see what you want. It's a nice way to put a collage of whatever your references that you like. So whenever it comes to goblins, they generally have like a different toned ear and different tone nose in most cases, and their skin is of a different color. So I want to keep that theme in mind. So that's the reason I was going for purplish ears and nose and fingertips and all that. But I might end up changing that purple to something else that looks more natural and realistic. With and I want to be able to achieve a skin that looks something similar to this reference here. So I'll be getting to that in just a little bit. So as far as the colors go, that's the reason I have the purples towards the ear, and I'm not doing anything too fancy in there. I'm literally using, I think, an ambient occlusion or a, yeah, I'm using a thickness map that's graded out to get those regions in selection that I want to make it purple. And after that, so one thing that that you want to keep in mind is I spend a lot more time creating proper masks than actually working with the uh, color that I want to change itself. Because if you get the right region and selection, you know what to do. The colors are kind of secondary, that you can kind of achieve whatever you want at a later stage. And I've not painted a whole lot in this situation just yet. It's all baked out maps that I'm grading in different ways to get the regions and selection as to whatever I want to see. So over here, basically the regions of the underarms and stuff, I'm making it slightly darker. And yeah, so with the Z-disc that Sunil has made for the skin, for the skin details and the pore details and all that, I'm adding that in on top as as an individual layer, and I'm just making it ever so slightly darker, because at the end of the day, it's still a color map that you're making, and you don't want to add in too much of a dirty look, because once you start rendering it, especially if your subsurface is working properly, if it'll add in an extra layer of darkness when you, the more darker that you make it here in the color map, the more darker it's gonna get in your render, because along with there being less subsurface there, there will also be dark color coming from the diffuse direct input. So that's not ideal in most cases. So, or that's not ideal at all. So that's basically what I have for the color information itself. Now, this is what I would say is like my WIP, because I have not painted anything in there at all. And once I start painting, I'll make specific changes according to specific color requirement. Like these purple patches on his forehead, I would maybe keep some of them, but I won't keep it as much as it is there here right now. So you can see there's a world of difference between what I was just showing you from this input here, where everything was looking super dark and not as not as bright or cheerful, and then all of a sudden it becomes bright here. That's because in overlay functions, with these two overlay functions, the brighter regions become brighter and the darker regions become darker. So now, because I'm adding in an ambient occlusion as an overlay input, which has a lot of brightness in itself, that's gonna load up. Yeah, so because this has a lot of brightness in itself, it's gonna make it look a whole lot brighter than whatever I have behind it. Just keep in mind, whenever you are playing with black and white values, you always want to use a clamp node so that you're clamping your values between 0 and 1. That's very important. Um, I'd also like to just I'd also like to just add in your channel inputs, if it's a color map that you're creating, you want to use your mask data as linear data, and you want to use your color data as your sRGB input. If you have ACSCG installed on your computer and you want to do it that way, then you can go ahead and do that. But I'm not entirely sure about what the proper how to properly convert maps for that for later use, but you can do that if you want to. So similarly with all my other channels where it's only linear data, the color data is marked as linear data as well. So that's really important that you do that. If not, your output is going to look very different. So now, yeah, the next major part that I did was the cloth. The cloth basically has three different types of cloth. So this one So what Sunil had in mind is one to add in a hide which goes around, which wraps around his back, this, and to add in the jute type of material up front here, and this to be regular cloth material. So now this particular part of my file not only just deals with that cloth there, but it also has the thing that wraps around. Ah, you can't see that. Give me a second. Grid wireframe. Okay. So yeah, so that cloth also includes the band that wraps around for the skull and the arm bands and all of that as well, which to be honest I've not yet updated in my file just yet. So that is something that I have to do. But yeah. So as for the cloth itself, I have three different inputs mainly to begin with. One for the pants, one for the hide in the back, and one for the jute part in the front. So these three nodes over here, the axis projection nodes, they're coming through the extension, Mari's extension pack. Now it's a much cooler form of triplanar projection. Triplanar projection. Now, if you don't have oh my god, where did it go? Triplanar. Ah, what is that node called? Shit. Mm, mm, mm. I was about to ask Sunil, but I'm not sure.
Brain
He'd
farts. I
remember.
have no idea, dude.
It's all right. So okay, there's an equivalent node that you get in Mari, which I'm not able to recollect the name because it sucks. The axis projection is any day better. Axis projection is what you get through the extension pack, where you can just load in one image and you can set in the scale of how big you want the texture to be, and you're kind of set. You don't have to worry too much about it. But if you use the other one, it should be triplanar projection. Triplanar. That's what I typed, right? Let me just check one more time. Yeah, see, it's called
Try.
triplanar project,
Yes. Go ahead.
but I don't know why it didn't show up in my search when I looked for it specifically. That's dumb. So this is the other node that you can use instead of axis projection if you don't have the extension pack installed, where you have to input the three images for the three axes that you want to project it from. That's X, Y, and Z. So that'll be positive and negative X, positive and negative Y, and positive and negative Z. But you have to control all three of them separately, which kind of sucks. So instead of that, axis projection is a any day better option. So okay, I'll just get rid of the wireframe. Yeah. So you can see I'm getting the cloth, what do you call this? The cloth um, texture in there. I'm grading all of them to look something like zero point 0.5 mid value type of a grade. So that is all three different types of cloth. I have it done that way. They are all connected to these radio transmitter nodes. I'll get to why that is in a bit, but just keep that in mind that they're all being transmitted to something else. And I'm just using the masks that I have created down below, like the hide mask and the leather mask and the cloth leather mask. Sorry, not the cloth leather. Sorry, these are the masks that I've created, which I'm transmitting again as well. So according to those masks, those three different pieces of cloth are getting three different textures, and I'm literally just adding in a cloud with a different color, and I'm adding in this as the texture itself as an overlay function. And after that, I have those same ISOs coming in where I'm just using an HSV node and a little bit of grading function here and there to brighten things up or darken things out and make things more saturated or whatever according to how I need it. Now over here, I had done something which I don't remember. One second. Oh yeah. So I wanted in the nice detailed sculpt um uh, that Sunil had made for the cloth itself to add in as well on top, just to give it a little bit more wrinkled details. Now you can't really see how much of a difference that's making over here. Even if I zoom in, it'll look like it's just getting a little bit brighter, but in the Katana render it makes quite a bit of a difference. I'll only be able to show that to you if I do a comparison of the two renders. If not, you'll not be sure of what I mean. So other than that, I have similarly again I have basic colors that are coming in for the bones with some textures that are just being overlaid on top to give it the look that I want. Now I'm not done with any of these. That's why I'm still that's the reason I still have a lot of empty space in here. So as you can see, this is as of right now, all of this is a lot of the sculpt detail that is being overlaid on top rather than just any plain texture. I still have to get to this and add in like cuts and scratches to make this more look more realistic. The same case for the stones, rope and thread, and the eyes. Now, for the eyes, let me show that to you in the UV mode. If not, it's going to be a little difficult to explain what it's done. So, objects, okay. So, the eyes have two layers. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, hopefully that's working. Goblin. Let's see. Yeah. So the eyes have two layers. This is the inside layer, which is the cornea and the iris. So I painted in the veins and I've added in the cornea color and the iris color and all of that. And on top of that, we also have the cornea, which if I go to UV and if I change switch between the two models, you will see this patch disappear here. Um, Yeah, so that patch of the model is basically the cornea that's coming on top of, sorry, it's a cornea. Yeah, it's a cornea that's coming on top of the iris and the sclera. So that's going to be a glassy, watery, that's going to be the reflective part of the eyeball, and the inside part is going to be the subsurfacey, fleshy part of the eyeball, just to add in a little extra bit of uh, an extra bit of realism to the eye. You do it that way. You add in extra layers if you want to make it look better. So as for the texture of the eyeball, again, it's some of the basic stuff. I have a couple of different variations of cloud noise coming in to add in a little different colors in there and over here, and then I've painted in the wings loading. Yeah, I've painted in the wings of the on the eyeball, and I've added in a different cloud color with blue and red to add in the veins add in the veins there. So that's what makes the veins look like that. So now the advantage of doing things this way, especially with masks, is at any given point of time, if I want to go and change the color of the wings, I can come here and do that. And if I want to change the shape of the wing, I can come here and easily do that as well. I can reproject whatever I want, or maybe even get rid of certain things if I don't want it. Now, if I do all of this in one layer, which I can, it'll save me a lot of time. But the problem with that is I can't go back and change things if I want to, which I don't really like, especially if you're ever doing anything for production. It is never a good idea to um, get fixed on something, because if there's any back and forth ever, you can't really do anything about it. Now I'm just adding in this iris that I have um, projected on top to add in the iris details in there. So that's about it for the eye texturing. Now, all of these things from the different parts of the texture that I'm adding in radio nodes for, I'm using these inputs later down the line to create my spec and my displacement and all of those other maps. Now, I'll get to the opacity map first because it's the easiest for me to go through. So for the opacity map, everything has opacity except for this one cloth where I want it to be a little more see-through, because if it is jute, it's gonna look a little like that. So this kind of a threaded pattern effect. So along with this, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding, projecting in edge tone edges to make it look more realistic. So I'm not going to be doing that just for this. I'm going to be doing that for the other pieces of cloth as well, wherever it feels necessary. But like, say, towards these edges here and a little towards these edges here, and also the hide will be toned maybe in the back somewhere. So, and I'm also planning on adding in a little bit of a tone part on his pants, but I'm gonna do that and see what it looks like. If it looks good, I might keep it. If it doesn't, I might get rid of it, because opacity is one of those things that not always it works. So, um, so that's what I'm doing for the opacity map. If you can see these yellow nodes here, wherever I have blue nodes, these yellow nodes are getting inputs from there. So I'm getting in the hide map input here, and then I'm getting in the jute texture input here. I'm just grading those to make it as black and white as possible, and I'm exporting that out as an opacity map. Now I'm doing something similar for the speca map as well. So for the speca, first off, I just put in a flat base color. I've not used a cloud here because I don't want variation when I don't want it. Um, and on top of that, I'm using in the ZDisp, uh, Sunil created to add in variation. So I'm using that as my base. So on top of that, I'm adding in an ambient occlusion to get certain regions to look brighter and certain regions to look darker. So if I come here, and you can see that it's a very small input, and there's a good reason for that. Because these are maps that work only based on values, only based on 0 to 1 values. So a value change of point 1 may not look very prominent to your eye, but to a computer, a value change of point 1 is going to make enough of a difference to make it look um, more shiny than it needs to be, or less shiny than it needs to be. So whenever you're creating your speca maps, keep in mind your map may not look very appealing to you, but those are the values that you want. So as long as you make your maps look accurate, you should be good. So now this is what I have for the speca map, and on top of that, I'm adding in a curvature map as well to get in a little bit more detail to come through, like especially like the pores and stuff. So essentially, wherever it gets darker, it's going to become shinier, and wherever it's brighter, it's going to be rougher. So, like the few important things you want to keep in mind while creating a speca map is you want to have enough information, enough breakup in there for it to be able to read enough specular difference through in your render. So if I increase this, right? Now, although over here I might think, yeah, this looks better to me visually because I can see better brighter patches and better darker patches. If I zoom in closely, you can see that you're starting to lose a lot of the detail that you had there, which may not be the best case scenario, because if you have a flat color in your speca map without a lot of breakup, then it's going to read a flat specularity there, which generally makes your render look a little bit more waxy, which is probably not ideal. So in many cases, what people do is they create a good looking color map, and once they create a good looking color map, they use that map, um, desaturate it, maybe invert it sometimes. You may not require to you may not be required to invert it in other times to later create a speca map with that, or that used to be the way people used to do things. And especially if you get an asset where you're projecting something, like if you did a photo shoot for an asset and you projected those images as your color map, that's basically all the detail that you need for your spec car as well. So you use that to create your spec car map. But since in this case, it's a character that's being created completely um, by us, I'm using the displacement information breakup to create my speca map. So you can see I've made all the veins darker, so wherever it pops out, it's going to be that much more. It's going to have that much more of a visual breakup, that you can see it or read it from a distance. So this is what I have for the speca map now. And granted, this is okay for the first part. I still have to go in and update a bunch of things to make it look a little bit better. So different now a few things like that you want to probably keep in mind when it comes to making a speca map is your lighting is going to change what your speca looks like towards the end. So if you have a photo shoot light rig with with solid HDRI and or like a proper what do you call this, probe lights that are being pointed at you, you may get sharp spec response as opposed to the same character with the same maps in an overcast HDRI or something like that. So more than going for what looks right in one particular light rig, try to create speca maps that would look proper in general. So it'll give you the same response no matter it'll give you the accurate response no matter what light rig you're in. But it'll what do you call this? It'll still look natural in those cases, but um, it may not look the same across different light rigs. So that's one thing that you need to like kind of understand, I guess, after you do it a few times. So I also have um, created a few displays. I have created one displacement map other than what just Sunil gave me. So the displacement that Sunil gave me had a lot of details on the skin and stuff, but I needed some proper displacement for the costume. So all of this height information I'm using from those triplanar projections that I picked up from above, from the cloth region here, and I'm adding them in to create a disk 2 map. So all of this information reads in separately better. So to this, I will also be adding in the cuts and scratches that I add into any of the bones, and also the any of the high frequency details that I add into these stone regions, and also these small threads and ropes. I'll be adding in some more details. So all of that information will again be coming in through this displacement map here. So as for texture, that's basically what I've done. I've exported a whole lot of maps from this. Which includes the color map, the speca map, and let me just um, let me just tell you what are all the maps that I'm using. Yeah, so I'm using okay. So the map that the ZDisp map that Sunil gave me, I ended up converting it into three different parts: the bump, disp, and ZDisp. Bump being the highest frequency, disp being the mid, and ZDisp being the low frequency. So this is where I'm getting that bump map from. I'm using a bump, a color, a displacement 2, which I just showed you, And eyes bump. This is something that I don't need anymore because I just ended up renaming it as disk 2 and I forgot to delete these. I disk, I z disk, and I bump are the same thing. It's all coming in through disk 2 now. Then I have something called ISO Luma. So it's just an isolation map for the lumen for the stone part in this guy over here. So wherever the stone has crevices, I have an isolation region marked over there. I think I made that through Nuke, so I may not find it here. Mm, Let me just check.
We are looking at topology. Nice.
I'm sorry, man. No, it's beautiful topology. I like your topology, man. It's good for what you have over there. That's some complicated mesh there. So
It's all thanks to ZBrush.
just to get context, I'll put in the yeah. So that's what that looks like. So these darker lines here, those are what I have coming in through ISO Luma. So I wanna this was Sunil's idea to add in some sort of glow effect from that region, which I haven't done properly just yet, but I've just got started with it. So that's what that map is. I have an opacity, I have a spec R, and ZDesp. I think that's it. Yeah, so that's about all the maps that I have. Now, it being RenderMan, you need to convert these to text. If you have RenderMan installed, you can just convert it using Maya. So you have a text converter tool in there. Now, as for the things that I've done in Katana, a lot of it has just been reading through the maps that I've created and getting them to come through in the right color or the right channel. One second. Okay. Da, da, da. Sorry about this. Just give me a second. Sweet. So yeah, do I have? No, no, not this one. Do I have this? No. Ah, yes. Thank God. Okay, so this is the only render that I have with separate uh, render passes. So this is what my primary or my beauty pass looks like. This is what my diffuse pass looks like. It looks so dark, diffuse direct, because a major part of this contribution is coming in through subsurface. So that's why the diffuse direct looks so dark. The indirect will have very little in there. If you can see, there's like a little bit of reflection that's going on there that you can see. That's about it. Then you have specular direct. So a lot. This is what my specular direct looks like. It for the moment it looks pretty good. I'm okay with it. And you have your spec indirect as well. So wherever you see reflected light, you can see some specular indirect. So in my Katana setup, I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but for my light rig, I put on a plain flat ground at the bottom. So that's the reason it's getting enough reflected light there. So this is what the normal pass looks like. So I'm able to get control over separate parts of the displacement, like these veins and then the skin details and other parts of the displacement details separately, mainly because I separated out the displacement into three different channels. And then I have the emissive pass. So this is what I was speaking of. This is ISO emit. Was that ISO emit? That was ISO Luma, yeah. So this is what ISO Luma is creating, and then you have the transmissive pass. So in the transmissive pass, due to transmission in the eyes, you can see the eyes only come through the ISO transmissive pass. Rendering eyes is a little painful because this does not give me enough information that I need. Like if I go to spec direct right now, you'll only see the sharp specularity, but you won't see what kind of specularity you're getting on the cornea itself. So if you want to check the different type of spec that you're getting on the cornea and the limbus and the iris, then you have to render them out separately one by one by manually selecting them in the scene graph and rendering them out. So that is a little annoying, but at times it's kind of worth it. So now a bunch of things that I want to changes to in this is uh, oh, there's Clint here. What's up, Clint? So one of the things that I want to make changes to is the spec pass. I don't really like how shiny this looks over here, and especially when it's rendered from this far off, it makes starts to give it a more waxy look, which I don't really like. I'll be updating my maps accordingly to fix all of that soon. So as for my shaders, let me just go through my skin shader once because that's probably the base that I created. So first I just created this one shader, set up all the maps for this properly, and then just duplicated it a whole bunch of times and then assigned different materials, named it differently and assigned it to the different parts of the model. So that basically just saved me a bunch of time. If not, I'd have to go in and make the same node connections again and again, which would not be fun. So yeah, okay. First off, um, it's going to be a little painful. Give me a sec. Okay, I'll show it you this way. So I have my color map coming in from here. Now, because I'm working with sRGB for my color, it's very important that you switch on linearize option. This took me a little while to figure out, because especially because this being the first proper project that I've worked on. Um, this basically tells it that the color in that it is a color input. So you can click on these question marks here and it'll explain to you what that particular setting does. So if it's an sRGB input, you need to specify and switch it on. So I have my color input coming in through this. So my color input is going into two different places. Like you already saw in the render, there is a very minute input in the diffuse direct, and there is also a major input coming in through the subsurface channel. So I have my subsurface color and diffuse color getting their input values from the color map, and both of them are going into PRMan nodes, which is basically for color correct. Granted, in this case, I've not done any changes in both of them. If I want to at some point of time, I can go ahead and make basic color correction from here. So over here, I have my spec map coming in. You notice that like I don't have my linearize option switched on because this is already a linear input. This is for the spec input, which is going in through a remap node, and I'm doing quite a bit of remapping here. So that's basically black point, white point. So I made the blacks a little blacker, the whites a little bit more white, and then that's the lift. So overall, I made it brighter. For things to just render out properly. And over here I have my bump input coming in as well. So this is from Sunil's ZBrush that I split the channels for. The bump input is just coming in through here. So in the shader itself, there's nothing too fancy that's going on. So I have my diffuse input coming in over here with zero point 0.1 value, and I have my subsurface value of zero point 0.9. So it's linked through an expression. So if I to manage energy compensation so that my renders don't go over values of 1, I've set it up this way. So over here, if I say I want a diffuse value of zero point 0.7, and if I hit enter, immediately this turns to zero point 0.3. So I don't have to worry about it individually every time when I go and change something. So that's the reason that's there. But as is, I'm not doing any changes in the diffuse. In subsurface, you have a bunch of options in PR renderman. The easiest way to keep this in mind is the topmost ones are the low quality subsurface, and the bottom ones are the high quality mathematics for subsurface. You get better looking subsurface from the ones lower here, but they always take longer time. Jason dipole and the other two that are there with it, these three give you about the same result. So insignificant parts where subsurface does not play a major role, like the eyeballs and things like that, you can just get away with one of these three. And then multiple mean free path, exponential path traced, and non-exponential path traced are the more expensive renders. They generally take a lot longer to render, but they give you a much better output. So for the skin, I've left it at a non-exponential path traced, which is probably the best one that RenderMan has to offer. And over here I've set up my subsurface values. So the mean free distance by default is at 10 for some reason, which is super high. I generally change that back to 1, and I give in the color that color with the value that makes sense for the size of the model that I have. And let me just see if I made the global changes. No, I have not. So you have a few. Oh wait. Shadow mode. No, no. Where's that? Okay, yeah. I've not made these changes, but there's something that you can do. You can change in the directionality, the blend, and the diffuse blend. These will basically affect how your subsurface reacts based on how close the two parts of the objects are. It's like you can kind of cheat how subsurface works through these, but in this case I've left them all as default. You have a bunch of other options for subsurface as well, which I don't use in most cases, so that's basically it. And I have my specularity coming in, and by default it's at artistic. The moment you change it to physical, certain features get enabled. I just change the edge color to white, so that it reads a white colored specularity, and I've just changed the refractive index to 1.3. And after that, the specular mode is something similar to the types of subsurface there is. Different modes give you different outputs. Based on what looks better for you, you can always change it and see how things work out. Now, I have not added in a rough specular or a clear coat because I didn't want another lobe of specularity on top. But at some point of time, if I feel the need to add some sweat layer or something like that, I'll probably add in clear coat. But yeah, so that's about it for skin. So basically, all the rest of my nodes are based on this, based on how skin is working, except for maybe the eyes and the stone. So in stone, there's one thing that I've done which is kind of different, which is I have used the ISO Luma for the gain inputs of diffuse and the gain input of glow for this, for one specific region here, so that the blue color part comes through the emissive input and not through the diffuse input. So if I go in the diffuse direct, you'll see that there's a stone with black lines. And if I go into the emissive, you'll see that the blue is coming in through emission from there. So the only fancy thing that I've done here is I have the ice Luma coming in through a remap, which I've just added to make a little bit more contrast. And on top I have, I think, inverted that map, and I've just clamped it and I've input it to the diffuse input. And at the bottom I've literally just clamped that one value and I've input it into the um, glow gain input. So other than that, it's again the same basic stuff. Although there's no subsurface in this for obvious reasons, it's a stone, so there's just a diffuse color that's coming in, and then there's some specular inputs in there. That's about it. And the last shader that I want to go through is the last two ones are the cornea and iris. The iris is similar to skin again. It's like it has the subsurface and the skin color input through diffuse and subsurface, and it has some specularity going on. but as far as the cornea is concerned, it is the most basic glass surface there is. So over here, you can see that I've just switched off the diffuse input altogether, switched on the refraction and reflection gain for the glass, made it one. Roughness is at zero because I don't think there is any roughness on the cornea of the eyes. And yeah, that's about it. It has some specularity going on in there as well, but that's about it. Oh yeah, the one last thing that I have done with the eyes, which I think you can tell from the close up probably. Na, na, na. If you can't, I can render this out and show that's not an issue. It's a small render. We'll just render that out. I've added in the displacement of the veins on the cornea. So the transparent layer of the eye is what has the displacement, because that is sitting on top, and it makes sense that that has the displacement. Cornea, cornea, base, areas. Okay, viewer, down, down, and test camera, expand branch. Give me a sec. As long as nothing errors, this should render.
You feel
Fine.
brave enough to render this now?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know what happened last time? Like I set everything up correctly, and I tried rendering it, and it didn't work, and I lost my shit. Like I didn't know what was going wrong. I was just getting really annoyed and pissed off until I realized that a render man had expired, so I had to
Uh,
get this again, and then
damn.
it worked.
That annoying as fuck, dude.
It was, yes, it was. Mm, mm, mm. Because my laptop is slow, it takes a little while to render the eyes. Give it a second. Oh
Hit
yeah,
them
I've
people with the
added it.
close up.
What?
Hit them people with the face close up, dude. I
Hit
mean,
what with the face close up? Sorry.
just show them the close up render of the face that you showed me.
Oh yeah.
People will be like, damn.
Damn, bro. So cool. Oh man. Oh my god. See, I'm confident to launch a render, but with the amount of shit that's happening in my computer, I don't think my computer is confident to render it. Oh,
Uh,
there's the blue searching.
at this point, you can close Mario, or do you need it?
No, that's what I was gonna do. I just stopped the render. Hang on. Let's see if I can switch back to Katana, because Mari is closing slowly. Oh yeah, I can. Okay. Now stop this render. Sweet. Oh, look at that. Everything is working. So the veins are coming in through displacement on the, what do you call this? On the transparent layer. So literally the glass sphere layer. The iris itself. Oh crap. Oh, Mari is closing. Okay. So the iris itself doesn't have any of that. It just has a subsurface and some color. Did Mari close? Did it close? Save. Yes, save. Did I do anything? Doesn't matter. Save it anyways. Close window. Bum, bum, bum.
By the way,
Yeah.
Flint says hi, and Ashish says hi. I don't know if he's still here.
Oh, sweet. Where did they send that in the message? Oh, that was Ashish.
The inside game pack. That was at the beginning of the stream, but I didn't want to disturb you. You were in that flow.
Yeah, I thought like both of those were from Clint. Like I took that, I took saw that in the glance for a second, and I thought both those messages were from Clint.
Mm.
Boy. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. It's only taking this much time to render because I've zoomed in so much, and the eyes have subsurface. I'm sorry, I'm just canceling that because there's no point. Okay, render this. Hopefully, it'll be a whole lot faster. In the meanwhile, this is a face close-up that Sundar was speaking about. This is what the goblin looks like right now. Um, I could have showed it to you here, but I didn't render this with passes. But basically, the wings that you see, the color is on the inside, and the displacement is on the outside layer of the eye because I can't put both of them in the same place. That's what I'm trying to. Oh, by the way, I love this region of the sculpted. Like the spec breakup is looking really good because of that. Like awesome work on the sculpt pass. Like really good job on that.
Yeah, I hear. I hear you. Wait for the next one. Amazing.
Wait, yeah. So this is what the eyes look like without the cornea. It has some diffuse input and it has a lot of subsurface input, but the normals are pretty flat there. It has normals for the iris, but that's about it. Oh yeah, I added that in the displacement for the cornea. I forgot about that. So other than that, there is not much else going on there. If I render both of them together, I like fancy ass eye setups. This one is not the fanciest one, but I just like how you see the materials interact and like do things because you'll be able to see it now. But basically, this part of the eye, you can see this going flat because of the IOR on the other sphere on the cornea. This thing changes so much that it just makes it look so much more realistic and nice. I kind of like it. You see what I mean?
It doesn't look
With
flat. Yeah.
yeah, with the what do you call this? With the rest of the model, it looks better. But yeah, that's what I've got so far. That's what I've gotten up to. So up next, I'm going to be spending some time and painting and projecting things that are more important to make it look more like the way I want to, like especially with the skin. So like I'm not I after Sunil told us, I've kind of agree with him a lot. The purple is not really working out that well with the skin. I'll be getting rid of that purple and try to get a skin tone that looks slightly purplish maybe, but looks more realistic than it does over here, and paint it and blend it in better. And other than that, I'll be adding in nice opacity map on the cloth everywhere. So there'll be tone pants here, like on a bunch of places, if that works out. And for sure, the edge of all these clothes will be toned and will be looking a whole lot better. And there'll be a lot more detail on the bone parts wherever there's bones, and the rope and the threads will I want to add in proper fine bump and disp information in there to make it look more realistic. And this is one of those things which I want to try adding in some sort of what do you call that, like fog effect around it so that it looks more emissive and looks like it's emitting some amount of light, and also add in more breakup so it's not glowing everywhere throughout. Also, just saying, I like this emissive pass. It just looks like there's something happening in there. It doesn't look that nice and the beauty though, but it in general the emissive pass looks good. So one of the things that I really liked in some of the references that Sunil gave me, which I'll just show you right now. This is one of the things that I just want to put in a lot of time and effort and get it to look really good is the veins on the hand. He has one specific reference in there which looks so good. I want to make it look as similar to that as possible. Like, okay, so good is relative, but this does look like really good, like really cool. I want to try getting this to look something similar to that. So that's basically all the different updates that I want to do to this character. Not sure how much longer it will take, but I'll have update sometime soon.
No, take your
Oh,
time.
and
Take your
that's
time.
yeah.
Are we?
What do you think?
Are we done?
Yeah, that's basically everything from me.
Dang, that was amazing. I was totally listening to everything. I also trying to work though, but yeah,
Did you do anything? Did you get up to much?
yeah, I did something
What you do?
better than nothing. I did more than what I did in like 1 month, one last month. So that's a progress stood. Unless I'm not playing Elden Ring anymore, so that's good.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, but yeah, man, that was like amazing. I wanna try texturing, and I'll probably like the first session that we had for the color map, right?
Yeah.
That was very useful. So I am working on a project for just for that, just that I want to try texturing in Mari.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll start that as well, and you can help me out with that.
No worries at all, man. Fucking go for it. All the best.
Yeah, this was amazing.
It's just messed up to me that like I look at the same character in two different monitors of mine. One it looks more green and the other it looks more skin colorish. It just bothers me a lot. Like I need to find out which color that I need to go with. Screw it. I'll figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, check out on stream on phone or something like what is the actual color that people are looking at, maybe.
Oh yeah,
Or
that's a
even if
good
the,
idea.
yeah, I don't know if the phone color is different or something, but you can have
Now
a look.
my phone screen is a calibrated screen, so I should probably do that. I should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah,
I'll check that. Thanks for
cool.
that
Yep,
idea.
yep. Then should we call it done? I think it was like you should be charging for this shit, bro. I don't know. It is really good.
Sweet. Maybe somebody will pay us. I don't know. YouTube at some point in time.
Yeah.
YouTube. Okay, no.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, man.
Okay, man.
Uh,
Sweet. Hopefully, I'll be done with this soon. I'm waiting for your next character.
yeah, yeah. Jellyfish. Look forward to that. I'll start working on that again.
Sweet. Go for it.
Okay, peace out, people. Like the stream, and this is our outro. Awkward outro because we didn't know what to do today. So bye bye.
Bye, man. Bye, guys, to who are listening.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,